from a defabricated garden shed in Rockland County, New York, USA. This is Stand Up with Pete Dominic. On today's episode, a discussion of the vagaries of marsupial hemorrhoids. And now, the podcast host who can't wait to tell you all about physical intimacy with horses, Pete Dominic!
Oh, yes, a whole show today, all about it, except for the part where I might have had to edit that out, Pete. I forgot to tell you. We decided to dump that guest, and I didn't get back to you. So, maybe another time. Hello, my friends. How was your weekend? Mine was action-packed. 19 guys from high school getting together at a giant house in Pennsylvania where the indoor pool smelled a little bit like asparagus urine. But other than that, it was great. Had a great time with my buddies, and it was great catching up, bonding, connecting, talked a little bit about it with my second guest, Mara Quint. But I'll talk more about it, I'm sure, with them. I might even have a couple of those guys on the show this week. We'll see. But joining me today, it's Mara Quint, as I said, and Celeste Headlee. It's been way too long since NPR's author. Celeste Headlee has been on the show, one of the most brilliant people I talk to. Very excited for you to hear my conversation with her. But first, couple headlines I want to mention here at the beginning of the week. Apparently, gas prices have continued to rise, and there's rumors that the Pope might be retiring. Russian airstrikes hit Kyiv for the first time in weeks. Several mass shootings over the weekend. The company that makes formula at the Michigan plant, Abbott Nutrition, has restarted production after having been shut down in February due to contamination issues. Dr. Oz is apparently the nominee for Republican primary for senator. In the Republican primary, he won when David McCormick conceded to him over the weekend. So that'll be interesting in Pennsylvania. Fetterman and Dr. Oz. So many reality show celebrity candidates. You got your Herschel Walkers now as well. It's just nuts. Cannot believe Kevin Sorbo hasn't run for anything. The U.S. added 390,000 jobs in May, according to last Friday's monthly report. The White House lit up for orange for gun violence over the weekend. But I think this is one of the more important and interesting things to mention, and I'm just going to play for you from CNN this weekend. Senator Chris Murphy saying he's making progress in the U.S. Senate on some kind of gun control laws. Here he is with Jake Tapper yesterday.
Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer says he wants a deal this week. And let's be honest, the issue here is, what are Republican senators and West Virginia Democrat Joe Manchin, what are those 51 individuals, what are they willing to agree to? How close are you? What are the sticking points?
So I've never been part of negotiations as serious as these. There are more Republicans at the table talking about changing our gun laws and investing in mental health than at any time since Sandy Hook. Now, I've also been part of many failed negotiations in the past, so I'm sober-minded about our chances. We are talking about a meaningful change in our gun laws, a major investment in mental health, perhaps some money for school security that would make a difference. On the table is red flag laws, changes to our background check system to improve the existing system, a handful of other items that will make a difference. Can we get there by the end of next week, as Senator Schumer has requested? I don't know. But as late as last night, we were engaged in conversations about trying to put a package together, because I think Republicans realize how scared parents and kids are across this country. I think they realize that the answer to this kind cannot be nothing, that it's frankly a test of democracy. It's a test of the federal government as to whether we can deliver at a moment of just fierce anxiety amongst the American public. So we're closer than ever before. Let's see if we land it.
Well, there you go. Senator Chris Murphy continues to lead in the Senate. Can he get anything done? We will be paying close attention to that, but he needs pressure from us. So make the phone calls, write the letters, do whatever you possibly can. All right, now I want to move on to another clip I've got for you, which I love. This is a UFC fighter. His name is Jeff Molina. And he just went absolutely off about negative comments he received for wearing UFC's Pride Month shorts, gay pride. And I just love, he's not the most articulate guy. I mean, he doesn't have the best words, but he knows exactly what he wants to say. And I wanted to share it with you.
You're going to get me riled up. Dude, it's fucking ridiculous. Like, who would have thunk it that, like, in 2022, people are still, like, not, who the fuck cares, bro? Like, Honestly, it's not even about being an ally. I'm not saying I'm not, but it's like, just be a decent fucking person. Like, just be a decent human being. And like judging someone and trying to justify it with religion and saying all sorts of like just spiteful, hateful shit is crazy to me. It's mind boggling. It's like, who cares who someone wants to be with, or like their sexual preference, like, and then trying to justify the irony of trying to justify it by religion of something that's supposed to be so accepting. And you're going to get me going on a tangent, man. I was honestly shocked. So I picked the colors because I thought it looked cool, and then also it supports a good cause, you know. But I'll support anything of a community that's been oppressed and ostracized for some time now for something they can't help, you know. I'll get behind any of that, you know. It wasn't that long ago that like there was like school segregation and like that was like less than a person ago, man. That wasn't that long ago. And then same thing with like something like Stonewall. That was like 50 years ago. That's not even a whole person. Like, that wasn't a whole person ago, man. This is like recent shit. And I just thought in 2022, people would be a little more like open-minded and not pieces of shit. But I guess I was wrong. It's just crazy to me. Like, people were saying some like crazy shit, and it's like, dude, what would you do if your kid's gay? Like, what are you gonna fucking, and then trying to justify it like, God is gonna send you to who? Dude, like, mind your own business. If it doesn't concern you, get fucked. Like, sorry, you guys are trying to have a good day here, bro.
Wow, I just absolutely love that. I love that he doesn't use the word one generation, but one person ago, and I can't believe people are such pieces of shit. I mean, this guy's a UFC fighter, and I just think coming from him, it matters. And so I wanted to play that for you as well. Also, just wanted to mention this story. I keep seeing it everywhere. I'll have to ask Dr. Carroll about the research here, but because I saw it reported in so many outlets and it seems good, I'm just going to go ahead with it. Coffee drinking linked to lower mortality risk, according to a new study. The research found that those who drank moderate amounts of coffee, even with a little sugar, were up to 30% less likely to die during the study period than those who didn't drink coffee. Wow, that is a good way to start your week. Huh, my fellow coffee lovers? Yeah, I thought that was worth mentioning. And so that is where I will wrap up the news. And thank you very much for pressing play on today's podcast. I think you're going to love my conversations with Mara Quint and Celeste Headlee, who I will start with. She is the author of We Need to Talk, How to Have Better Conversations, Do Nothing, How to Break Away from Overworking, Overdoing, and Underliving. And her most recent book is Speaking of Race, Why Everybody Needs to Talk About Racism and How to Do It. She's an award-winning journalist who's appeared on NPR, PBS World, PRI, CNN, BBC, and so many other international networks, formerly a host at National Public Radio, anchoring shows including Tell Me More, Talk of the Nation, All Things Considered, and Weekend Edition. She's also been a mentor and managing editor for NPR's Next Generation Radio Project, training young reporters and editors in broadcasting. She's also been a mentor and a friend to me. I'm so happy to have her joining me here. Read all about her at CelesteHeadlee.com. Subscribe to her newsletter, get her books, follow her on Twitter, let her know you heard her here, and here we go.
I also still haven't gotten COVID.
I haven't either.
Oh, really?
And I would prefer not to.
Do you think that makes us genetically superior?
No, I think it means I maybe you're genetically superior. I think I am just a rabid masker.
Yeah, no, I do not think I'm genetic. I just got a cold. I think that I live in a shed. Okay, so lots that I want to tell. It's like, it's pretty hygienic. I mean, I got ants in here, but no COVID yet.
They're not going to give you COVID.
Got my dog, but no COVID. So I want to ask you about this election judge thing. That's like one of the reasons. I mean, I could talk to you, as I said at the beginning, about everything from communication to race to journalism, and I want to ask you about that as well. But you put out a tweet that you're going to serve as an election judge, and I don't know what that is. And as I told you before we hit record, I was just involved with a campaign, so I'm learning a lot, but different rules, different places. Tell us about this and why it's important. Why are you doing it? Don't you have enough to do?
I do have enough to do.
You're too busy.
But I'm super concerned about voting in America. There's not much I can do to get the Voting Rights Act passed. There's not much I can do about gerrymandering, but I do know that they're always looking for election judges. Now, when you go to vote, every single person that is in working at those polls is an election judge. And then they have sort of the supervising judges, et cetera, that really make the tough decisions. But you go through a fair amount of training. You have to train on a bunch of online courses, and then you have to go in for in-person training, because there's way more laws that white-haired old lady that's taking your ballot is aware of than you would ever kind of think. But they always need election judges to protect the vote. They need people to pick up ballots from drop-off points and deliver them to the city. And that's how we keep our availability open to everybody. That's how that's possible to have drop-off locations, is because someone has volunteered to go pick up those ballots. Now, I mean, you get paid, you get a stipend. It's not probably what you're making at your regular job, but mostly it's just, this is something I can do to protect democracy and protect voting.
How do you trust the person that is got custody of the ballots? How do I know you're not going to harvest them?
Well, number one, there's so many checks and balances. Like, in order for me to harvest them, every single election judge in that location would have to be corrupt. And since they're assigned randomly, that's tough. So you would have to not only have every single election judge at that location be corrupt, but the person at the main administration office who does the assignments would have to be corrupt. Like, you'd have to have a well-oiled machine, and we all know that is not how government works.
And it's also not worth it to win an election. Like, no one's putting money, no organized conspiracy is going to it's just not worth the cost, which is, it's always been the argument against all this, voter need for a voter ID and so on. Like, no one's committing that crime. It's not worth it.
Exactly. It's not, nobody's...
You can't win. You can't succeed. If you could succeed in it, it'd be worth it, but no one's gonna, it's too hard.
No, there are so many checks and balances. Yeah. And that's one of the things that I've come to appreciate, having gone through all the training, is just how many. I mean, to commit voter fraud would be so freaking difficult. Yeah. It's not only not worth it, it would be so hard. So hard.
So you tweeted that you will be served as an election judge in Montgomery County, Maryland. And you wrote, so freaking excited to serve democracy and help protect voting by actually helping people to vote. You should join me, volunteer to serve at the polls and be part of the solution. Your next tweet is a link. So go follow Celeste and look at it. People. I'm not just saying this, like, this is a great idea. This is the main primary thing I wanted to talk with Celeste about, because it's such an important thing. And I just want to unpack it real quick. You're so freaking excited to serve democracy. Here's the thing. It doesn't look like an exciting thing. And then you go in and you meet all these people, and it's really fun and social. And if that's anywhere in your world, if you want to get back out there, what a great way to do it. I love it.
I also remember, now your girls aren't old enough yet, but I remember when my son went in to vote for the very first time after he turned 18, and how excited he was. And then the people at the desk gave him like 4 stickers because they were excited for him too. And, it's a positive experience. And there's so few experiences that we have that are almost entirely positive. And like, I'm spending that day literally doing something about a problem that I'm really worried about.
Yeah.
And I'm worried about voting. And this is something that I can actually do. You know how it is. I mean, you just got through all that whole campaign. It's not always easy to do something about the causes we care about. Some of them seem so big and intractable that anytime you can find an easy way to actually make a difference, I mean, it's awesome.
That is such a great way of saying it, whether it's cleaning up your community's litter issue, fighting pollution or climate change. But in this case, it really is something that you can do instead of just complaining or forget about complaining, just feeling sad and sour and cynical about where we're at. You actually can do something. And what is that? It gives you such a strong sense of purpose. I mean, we could go pretty deep spiritually. I don't mind, because I think that that's kind of a key in life for certain people.
Totally agree. And it also, it gives you this sense of civic pride.
Oh, yeah.
You're right. We're so cynical these days. It is so rare that you feel good about your relationship with, the government and with your country. But this is a case in which you are totally useful. Like, you're a useful part of society. It gives you the sense of being involved, like personally involved. It's a win-win-win-win-win all the way down the line. It's a 16-hour shift because you have to be there from morning until night. You don't get to leave. You can't turn your cell phone on.
Well, I'm going to edit that part out.
I mean, look.
Oh, and by the way, democracy isn't worth it for me to not have my phone for how many hours?
16.
When I do the warm up at John Oliver on Last Week Tonight on HBO, and they're not allowed to have their phones. And I always make like a point about how we're so rarely in a situation where we are not allowed to have our phones, and we almost never choose not to. All right, I'm speaking for myself. I try to put it away on Saturdays, but it's such a healthy thing is what I'm trying to say. And
it is a healthy thing.
You can speak to that in many ways.
So many ways. And then, number one, look, this iPhone came out in 2007? Like, it hasn't been that long that we were doing just fine without having a cell phone with us all the time. But you can understand why an election worker can't have their phone. Like, everyone can understand that, right? Like, they don't want you to have a camera in your hands all the time. So it's about privacy. That's about protecting the vote. It's all about protecting the vote. And, you're hopefully busy all day. I mean, there's nothing better than going to open the doors and at a voting location, and there's a long line of people outside. I mean, that's thrilling, especially when it's not a presidential election, when people are coming to vote for like city comptroller and school board, And then you look closer at the line, and it's every guy is wearing a "Let's Go Brandon" shirt, and you're like, "Oh, no, God, this democracy." You're so cynical.
I am. No, that's exactly how you do it when you're involved with a campaign. It's ridiculous how judgmental you become on every person. Obviously, that T-shirt screams a certain thing, but you just do it down demographics. I was like, oh, older black lady. Oh, big red looking white guy, whatever, woman, age, they're voting for. I mean, if you do that, you're not helping yourself, but it's certainly, something I think that we do, but it's worth all those people coming out. I get your point, obviously. Sorry. So that's that. And I hope that everybody will go on the link, and I can't wait to hear about it. When is this election that you're...
The 28th, June 28th.
Oh, okay. Is that is it your state primary?
It is our state. There's some other things we're voting for.
Yeah.
But yes, it's our state primary.
And this is the first time that you've done this election judge thing.
The first time I've been an election judge. Yeah.
Wow. Really excited. I can't wait to hear about it. And, definitely hope I see every tweet about it to share it, and look into doing it here in my town as well. Although now everybody knows me. So, okay. So a lot of other things that I certainly want to talk to you about. I told you earlier also about I dumped the news segment on this show because I think that I was addicted to the news. It was making me really ill mentally, like emotionally, rather. And I was selling something I didn't believe in. What is your relation? What do you think about just traditional now cable 24-hour cable news, and now add to that another screen with Twitter or some other social media dripping it in? You can easily become addicted, certainly during certain times, to the news. And what does that do to you?
Yeah, I mean, I especially found this true during the Trump administration when I was just worried all the time.
Yes.
John Mulaney said it was like having a horse in the hospital.
Yep.
Right? You're always like...
I remember that joke, yeah.
Yeah. And I also found that it was really having an impact on my mental health. Journalists, we find this all the time, that you go through a cycle, right? Like when you first get into journalism, you're invested in seeming like you're on top of it all the time. And so you're constantly plugged in. You allow all those notifications to come through on your phone. You're constantly checking because you think it's some sort of black mark on your character or your professionalism if some story happened and you didn't know about it right away.
Yes, I felt that way forever at Sirius, and I just always try to remind myself, like, I'm a comedian. Why am I taking all this? No one should expect... Go ahead, sorry.
Yeah, absolutely, that's the case. And then you start to realize that the veterans in the business are often the ones who don't know what happened. Like they're the ones who've already learned how to unplug and how to let their weekends be weekends, right? And that's why they're still in the business. That's why they're able to sustain it. So yeah, you start to go through a process of teaching yourself to wean yourself off. And so now, I take Twitter breaks all the time. I'll get on Twitter and I'll throw out a whole spate of tweets. I'll tweet 20 things within a couple hours, and then I'm off for a long time. So yeah, I'm with you. It's not healthy. Most of the things that I'm hearing about, I can do nothing about. And that's frustrating to a human being, to hear problems that you cannot possibly solve. And so it's healthy to let that crap go. I mean, imagine what it would have been like for our grandparents, where you had to wait for the 6 o'clock news or the 11 o'clock news. I don't know what times they were on. Right. But
I tend to think, and I think about our kids too, that there was a different kind of stress, or I don't know. I can't imagine how they manage their stress, but it just seems like we have the same issues that our grandparents did, our parents did. And yet we have all of these other things, including like FOMO, like something as stupid as knowing that all of your friends are at this party, or more importantly, or more larger, all of your friends and their families are so much happier than you. Look at these pictures, which is all bullshit, of course. Check their internet history if you really want to know. But
yeah, exactly. I mean, FOMO's fine. I'm sure that people have had FOMO for forever. We have this acronym for it today, but I'm sure that, in 1960, when your grandpa was showing slides of his Hawaiian vacation to his neighbors, right? That the neighbors were like, "Oh, we got to get out there, Joyce. Let's make sure we get." I'm sure there was FOMO everywhere.
But I mean, you like these teens today, like my daughter, Snapchat. You can see where everybody is all the time.
Yeah,
and luckily for her, I guess she's usually with them. But when she's not, it sucks. So just back though to the news. I mean, if you find out there's a tornado that killed a lot of people, or a plane went down, or a racist terrorist attack, it's a one thing to learn that a thing happened, to then become addicted to the day by day investigation and what happened, and obviously the bullshit analysis before you know what happened. Let's bring on our aviation expert. What can you tell us? I don't know. I don't know. I don't know what happened. But that's different than just knowing a thing happened and then maybe replacing it with a positive thought or action.
Yeah. In addition to that, that's all correct. And in addition to that, this constant hunger to feed the 24-hour cycle leads to some really unethical and irresponsible behavior on the part of journalists. I have a newsletter, and I just re-upped a piece I'd written in 2012 after Sandy Hook, saying, why are you interviewing children and parents after a school shooting? Why would you do that? Because what is the journalistic value of what this 8-year-old tells you about running out of the school terrified? There is none. That doesn't give us information that we need. That's voyeurism of the worst sort. And we also have all of this psychological evidence showing that it increases the traumatic effect of the experience. So you're doing psychological damage, not only to the kids, but to their parents as well, for no journalistic value. But the reason they're doing that is to feed that hungry maw. What's the thing in Star Wars? The Sarlacc, that giant mouth in the desert.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. I don't know its name. Yeah.
Somebody who's nerdy and a Star Wars nerd is
screaming at us right now, screaming at the top of their lungs. Yeah.
But that's how I sort of imagine it. That 24-hour cycle is just this giant, never-ending digestive organ. And that has, like I said, it has led to some really bad decisions on the part of journalists.
Very, very important point. You have written 3 books.
I have.
We Need to Talk is about how to have conversations that matter. Do Nothing, completely different book. How to break away from overworking, overdoing, and underliving, which that's one of the more important books I've read in my life, by the way. In terms of like actually making your life better, it kind of makes sense of a lot. And speaking of race, Why Everyone Needs to Talk About Race and How to Do It is your most recent book. I know I got to let you go here, but I want to ask you something about that last book. I guess I just read that, I don't know, like 75% of people identify as Republicans think that they are more discriminated against than black folks in America. You've heard that kind of poll question, whatever the number is. If it's high, it's wild. And that's where I keep settling, Celeste. I keep settling on how can we talk about race? How can we do all the things you've written about and talked about? If we're starting at a point where they believe, on Earth 2, that they're more discriminated against some way, somehow than black people. I have such a hard time there. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, and it's not just Republicans. It's actually all white Americans. I think it's more than 55% of all white people in our country.
Oh my God, it's 10 times worse.
They face real discrimination. Look, there is a political benefit in making white people feel like victims. Victims are more motivated to go to the polls. Victims, when you are victimized, you go into amygdala thinking, right? You view the entire world according to threat. And that makes you extremely easy to manipulate. When the part of your brain that's making decisions is the part of the brain that's controlled by fear, it means it's really easy to manipulate you. And for political forces, that is advantageous. And so there has long been a real effort on the part of political forces in the United States, not just Republicans, but mostly Republicans since the age of Nixon, to play up victimizations among white people. And it's totally worked. And the sad part of it is that there is no changing that. You can't change that belief until we calm the fear. While they're still afraid, you will not change their mind.
How do we make them not afraid? I mean, in the face of a constant onslaught of be afraid and then selling body armor on his show, Ben Shapiro, selling body armor.
Yeah. So this is entirely what the book Speaking of Race is about, is how do you calm that fear enough to be able to affect change? Like, that's how sort of complicated. It's simple, but it's not easy. And essentially, you have to speak with people in a way that makes them not defensive. I mean, there's nothing you can do about somebody who's watching Fox News all day and Ben Shapiro all day, right? I mean, they're going to be triggered all the time.
Don't spend time on them if that's your dad.
I'm not going to say don't spend time on them. I'm saying it's going to be very difficult for you to calm those fears.
Yep.
But over time, change can happen. If every interaction with you is calming and not upsetting, not fearful, that makes them really motivated to come back for another one of those conversations. Right? If you're watching Fox News and it raises your blood pressure, and this conversation with Pete is engaging, but also accepting and non-judgmental and sort of makes you feel a little calmer, that places a higher value on it. That's the way that over time that creates change.
I got to try to have somebody on this show regularly that I actually have that conversation with and do it the way that you teach us to, which would be hard, but just to do it publicly. There's a lot of those projects out there. I probably should be doing mine. I will let you go, my friend. I so enjoy being in conversation with you. Sorry for talking too much, but I know it can go everywhere with you. And there's so many things I want to ask you in a short amount of time. I hope that we can do this again soon, and we will stay updated on your election judge activity and remind people that that's the place to be right now.
Absolutely.
So thank you very much, Celeste.
Be an election judge, everyone. Thanks, Pete.
There you go, everybody. Be an election judge. That's right, Celeste Headlee. CelesteHeadlee.com. Go follow her on Twitter and definitely get all of her books. They are so, so good. I love talking to her. It's been way too long, and I've got to get her on more often. Someone who joins me very often, as much as anybody, is my guest right now. She joins me almost every Monday because she's brilliant, she's hilarious, and I can always count on her to have a thoughtful conversation about the week before, what's coming up, and life in general. It's Mara Quint, everybody, on Twitter at Behind Your Back. She's an activist now at Americans for tax fairness. She's the co-founder of Tax March. She is a humor writer as well. She's written in The New Yorker and McSweeney's, The Onion, and so much more. Absolutely hilarious and brilliant and always great here on the show. At Behind Your Back on Twitter, where she's prolific. Go follow her there. And here we go. And there she is. Mara Quint joins me now, and I have so much to talk to you about. Thank you very much for kicking off the week with me. How are you?
I'm okay, I think. I don't know. I don't know how I am. How are you?
Oh, you know how I am. Confused. And I just got back from the boys' weekend. And you and I were talking about that.
Yeah.
And you basically, you really want that in your life. You said,
you're telling me all about the porn that you created this weekend, and I think it's not fair that some people get that sort of porn and others don't.
Now, how would you define that? I mean, you're saying for some people they like to watch a rom-com, but for you, it's movies where friends are bonding and hanging out.
I wanted to leave this for a moment at the idea that you and a bunch of dudes actually created like standard porn, but okay, sure, fine. We'll take it into what I'm actually saying, which is, of course, the metaphor of it. Yeah, I am. I'm like, I dream of having like a group of friends that I can just sort of hang out with, and we all like rent a cabin and go away together and like have too many bottles of wine and secrets come out, but everybody's still friends at the end. And, like all of that stuff to me is just this dreamy, like, oh, I want that. That's exactly it. And you actually live it. It's not fair. It's basically like, someone who is celibate, but not by choice, just absolutely just watching all of this like constant, there was a knock on the door and the handyman comes in and they get to have sex, and just like, it's not fair. How come it happens to everyone else but not me? That's how I feel about it.
Amazing. Such a great analogy. But I don't you have to have like, I feel like you have to have some kind of a long-term investment with a bunch of people to make that happen. You met in our case. And
there's the rub.
Well, did you not have like big groups of friends at different points in your life? I feel like you lived in a bunch of different places in your life too.
I mean, not that many, but I did like live in a few places. I certainly had a big group of friends in high school. That's like the last time I had that kind of like group of friends thing. But we didn't like it's kind of strange to me when people are just like, oh yeah, I still get together with like all my middle school friends or my high school friends. I'm like, how did you pick people that great? Like, how are half of them not like just, Trump supporters or assholes or like just people you don't want to talk to anymore? What's that about? Maybe it's just that I changed too much. Maybe that's the problem.
I'm happy to say that of all the white guys that I grew up with, I think there's only a couple that might have been open to, and maybe one that's kind of a supporter that's political, but everybody else pretty much saw him at least for what he was, which is pretty good for 19 white guys, straight white guys, as far as I could tell, that grew up in kind of a rural area.
Yeah, absolutely.
But
I guess like, go ahead. Sorry.
I guess the only common factor is almost everybody has a college education. I don't know if that makes a difference. I don't know.
I was trying to like think like, my high school friend group, like what happened? Why aren't we all still a group? Now, my one very good friend, she is still one of my best friends. And so I have like one friend out of that group that kind of survived. Of that though, like one of the girls is she was always annoying. She just grew more annoying. She's just like unbearable to be around. One was always like a little bit mystic and has just gone like, I don't know. She does like Reiki. Like, I don't know that she has a cell phone or any means of getting in touch with her. Like, she's off in another world. The one guy actually he's like, I never know what country he's in. I don't think he has like a typical job or a home. He just kind of like travels from place to place, like trying to find problems and like, and help communities fix them in like some strange way. But again, like he's not around. He's, maybe I hear from him once every couple of years. One got a perfect score on the SATs. Sorry, you're getting the whole like deal, but he got a perfect score on the SATs. He was like absolutely brilliant. and just was like, I don't want any of this life, and went on to like manage a movie theater, and then also like fell off the grid. I don't know what. There's like a story to all of these people. They're all like, but they all sort of scattered.
Sounds like you need to start a text thread.
If I knew any of their numbers,
throw them all on it and just see what happens. Talk about a social experiment. I mean, that's what happened with us. It was during the pandemic. Like, people just kept adding each other to the text thread, and then guys started communicating. And then guys are like, "Let's get together." I mean, that's basically it.
That's just it. Like, I don't even have any like group chats. Like, that's not a thing.
No,
I'm not in any of it. No, I have lots of like one-on-one conversations, but maybe I mean, now that I'm saying it all out loud, it seems pretty clear, right? Like, the problem is me. All of these things are happening. They're just like,
No, I think it's super common. I mean, I kind of went for years without having a lot of guy friends other than my core group and the few that I might have made here and there, and only recently started, reconnecting. That's interesting.
Because I know, like, my brother has, a real strong group of guy friends. They all like go on ski trips or, I don't know, stuff like that. Like, I know a bunch of dudes who have like groups of guy friends, and I know a couple of girls who do too, all sort of in my family, like cousins and things. But yeah, I've not experienced it, and I want it.
Yeah, I wonder it's interesting, and I wonder how women will respond to you and how different it is gender-wise. I was going to say that certainly guys have an activity that they often will gather around, like you said, skiing or even like fantasy sports or golf, obviously. And
I like activities.
Huh?
I like activities. Yeah, but I'll throw a beanbag or, go down a mountain in whatever sort of way you want me to. Like, I'm in. What are we going to do on the water? I don't know. We going to ski on it. We going to swim on it. We going to boat on it. That's cool.
Mara is up for anything, folks. She is available to be in your friend group. Just go to @BehindYourBack on Twitter. And also, let me switch gears with you, because I got to ask you about, is one thing I definitely wanted to ask you about, which is loan forgiveness, college loan forgiveness, this issue.
Okay.
You, of course, are the Wealth Tax Campaign director at Americans for Tax Fairness, co-creator of Tax March, and an advocate for college loan forgiveness. And do you think, of all the proposals that have been out there, is there too much to forgive? Do we not have the money to do it? Does it create dependence? I mean, there's a lot of even liberal-minded people have issues with this. I am not one of them. But Josh Barrow tweeted, I'm not saying he's liberal, but cancellation is a handout. The extent to which is just numbers on a page is only the extent to which all money is just numbers on a page. Foregoing payment for a cost to the government and to taxpayers is just like writing a check for you because you're special. I cannot with these people. Gimme. Your reaction to that, as you did on Twitter.
Well, yeah, I find that to be absolutely ridiculous. I mean, all of it. Like, yeah, they're just numbers on a page. Yep. It's just that easy. It's just that easy. And we know it's just that easy because we have no problem anytime it's for like, we got to buy a bunch of guns and send them somewhere, or, hey, we got to bomb a country. It's going to cost a lot of money, but no, it's just numbers on a page. Who cares? Plus, we're fine with loan forgiveness when we talk about corporations. Hey, then it's fine. If it's the American car industry, no big deal. But if it's like a struggling teenager, suddenly it's a problem. I find that all really absurd and ridiculous. In general, I think, I will state very clearly, I have no student loans. Like, this is not an issue that I'm coming from with anything to gain here. There's nothing for me. I don't have any student loans. If I had thought that somewhere down the line, my student loan debt would be erased, would I have taken on student loans? Maybe. Like, yeah, I made some choices based on trying to avoid loans. I would have gone to a private school or something. Yeah, probably. Who cares? So what? That makes no difference to me. I don't understand people who are coming from this sort of like, oh, well, I would have X, Y, and Z. Go fuck yourself. Like, you made the choice. It doesn't matter at this point. I don't understand when we don't have this sort of like a rising tide lifts all boats attitude, because when you have a huge sector of the population drowning in debt, be it student loan debt or medical debt or whatever, but really just drowning in it, that is affecting their lives in way more than just, oh, it's, a bummer at the end of every month to have this extra payment. It is affecting people's lives in real material ways. It's affecting their mental health. It's affecting their ability to care for the people around them and to make choices. And when my neighbors are better off, I'm safer.
Right.
I'm happier.
Right.
My life is better. It matters. So I'm definitely a proponent of erasure of student loan debt.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing if you're going to call it a handout. It's like, it's my education. And, well, I paid for mine. You should have to pay for yours. No. You know what? I'm fine with it, too. Like, I think it's better, as you said, lifting all boats. It's better if people are out of debt. And if the debt is because of their education, were they really irresponsible for getting an expensive education? It's not like they bought a car they couldn't afford. I don't love those comparisons. They're really stupid to me.
Yeah, it is to me as well. And additionally, we are in a culture that is forcing teenagers to make these sort of choices.
Yes, great point.
In the most part, they're making these choices before they can vote even. I mean, we're doing this to 16, 17-year-olds. We are having them make a massive choice for the rest of their lives that we are also at the same time telling them, if you don't make this choice, if you don't go to college, you're going nowhere. You got nothing. Like
Yep.
we were really, as a culture, drumming that kind of a message at these teenagers. Like, this is your only option if you don't want to just, I don't know, drown in a lake. I'm not sure, but like that, it was just out there constantly. You have to go to college. And obviously not everyone got that same message. Obviously everyone didn't make that choice, but we do have to recognize that we were culturally really pushing that. And I do think that there is something to be said for the fact that, these were people who, before their brains had fully developed, were making choices that they were told was the best choice for their future. And now we want to sit here and be like, idiot, should have figured something else out. Why weren't you just born rich?
It's just, yeah, exactly. To say that they're irresponsible, it's like you invested in education, which is an investment because it keeps on giving. It's not, again, like buying a car or something else that you couldn't afford that loses its value. It's an education. It infuriates me as well. All right, let's go from college loan forgiveness to school shootings, shall we? That's the next category.
As long as we can keep in the world of education.
Yes, yeah, right. In the same under education, let's talk about...
Actually, I think that is the GOP plan for student loan debt, right? It's just if you die in a school shooting, then that problem becomes not an issue anymore.
No. They would still make your family pay back the loan. Come on.
I'm sorry. Good point. Good point.
You have school-age kids. You've been talking and tweeting a lot about mainly, I think, probably the reactions that we've been seeing. One of your tweets was, conservatives keep talking about arming teachers like they wouldn't then expect those teachers to pay for their own bullets. Yeah, there's just so many problems with the solutions that they're offering. I'm not sure where to begin. But it's been...
because they're not actually offering any solutions. They don't care to offer any solutions. They are just absolutely giving lip service to the mere idea that anything has to be done. They just sort of find another thing that they can say, well, what about this for a while until they can move on to something else.
Yes, that's exactly
They don't want to do anything.
Yep. Mental health, but not pay for it.
Right. No, there's not any problem that they actually want to invest in. It's the same to me really with the conservative argument for just about everything. But I mean... it goes to me to the people who claim to be pro-life, which, okay, if you're someone who truly believes that abortion is murder, well, okay, but if you're pro-life, then you better be advocating for policies that help mothers and that help families. And if you're not doing that, then I don't actually believe you are pro-life or care at all. And this is the same thing with conservatives on the gun thing. Oh, it's mental health. Were you doing anything for mental health? No, of course not. Oh, well, it's, I don't know whatever the hell they want to point to next. Oh, it's education or, but they want to defund public schools. So, it's all utter nonsense. And, it's really, we have all for so long now been living in this collective trauma of just simply being Americans, where leaving the house is something that can be anxiety inducing and panic attack and can be constantly affecting all of our mental healths. I don't know. Even those of us who, consider ourselves to be pretty mentally strong and mentally healthy. I think it's still something that is collectively bearing down on us. And we don't tend to even look at that too much anymore, because you're just supposed to accept it. You're just supposed to assume now that you live in a place with a certain degree of risk, and leaving your home, or in some cases staying in your home, means you assume that risk. It's like you're constantly waking up every morning and checking yes, I understand. I live in America. I could be shot at any time. Okay, go on with my day.
So well said. You tweeted something about this too. Had a successful night out. None of the mass murderers happened to be near me. It's exactly what you're saying when you're like, yeah. Should I go out? Should I go do a thing? And whether that's rational or irrational, we can debate. But increasingly, you get worried about people becoming violent. And now we're all conditioned because of COVID to be staying home anyway. And I just wonder if that's actually a long-term trend. You look at all these, I don't know if you've seen these articles or interviews where foreigners are being asked if they want to still come to America, want to come on vacation, much less come and live and study. And it would seem increasingly they think we're crazy. Have you seen that?
I haven't, but I actually used to, this was years ago now, this isn't recent, this was 10, maybe 15 years ago. At a particular job that I had, I worked with a group of kids who would come to the U.S. to go to summer camp. And they were specifically kids who had lost a family member, usually in some sort of violent way. Kids who had lost a family member due to war or national conflict. And these kids, they were, elementary school, 4th, 5th, some maybe even 6th grade. And we would meet them at the airport, and we would take them around, and I would take them to some try and do some cool things with them. And they were often really, really scared coming to the US. I mean, these are kids from areas of conflict coming here being yeah, but Americans, you could get shot at any time, right? Everybody's just going to shoot you. It was, I mean, I'm laughing, but it was kind of a little traumatic to send these kids to the US, because that was their feeling on being here. And I'm sure that has only increased. Like I said, that was a decade ago. So I would imagine it's only gotten worse.
Crazy story. And unfortunately, sometimes the case. What about your own school age kids? You do anything differently? You thinking anything differently? You hesitating as you send them off? I mean, there's so many anecdotal stories of parents with kids, the conversations that they're having. Is anything changing as the cycle of violence in schools continues?
So the tweet that you referenced, the one where I said I had a successful night out because none of the mass murders happened near me, was very, it was prompted by my actually leaving the house. But I almost tweeted about this, and then I didn't want to put it in writing. And I'm going to say it on your podcast.
Give it to me.
Because I think that your listeners are less likely to be mass murderers, I guess, than I think that people reading boots would be. It's an inherently more self-limiting audience. So what I had wanted to say was the night before, I had gone to my 5th grader's graduation. He's going to middle school, and the whole school did this 5th grade graduation ceremony, which, by the way, was 2 hours. How the hell? I thought it was going to be 30 minutes. Jeez. Yeah, it was a lot. But so it was at the school.
Slideshow, I hope.
Oh, there was each class had a speaker, and I mean, whatever. It was cute. It wasn't terrible, but it was a lot. But I normally their school is I feel pretty safe in my community, but where can you really feel safe anywhere? But normally you can't get into their school without being buzzed in if you're not going in the start. They, all the doors lock and stuff. And so I at least have that little there's a little bit of security there, I guess. But for this was an evening event. All the doors are just open. There's no security. Everybody's just coming in. And all the 5th graders are on stage. and all of their families are in this filled auditorium, which, by the way, I was one of 3 people in a full auditorium wearing a mask. So that was already like
wow.
That was already upsetting and stressful. But that was the least of my concerns because I spent 45 minutes of the 2 hours, the first 45, having an extreme panic attack.
Yeah.
And I was just, I was trying to watch my kid on stage, and I was just watching the 2 entrances to the auditorium, just watching people come in and out and trying to notice if anyone seemed off or nervous or how people were moving. I was looking around the auditorium trying to monitor the crowd, and I was so intensely aware of the fact that there were 100 10-year-olds, 10, 11-year-olds on stage.
Terrible.
And it was it took me a long time to just breathe normally.
Do you think that I'm so sorry to hear that, and I'm sure it's common, and I appreciate you sharing that with people because I know that is not. I mean, I used to have that all the time when I would get on planes.
But I want to just to add one other point.
Yep.
I was gonna tweet about that feeling,
mm-hmm.
and then I was afraid to say that on Twitter because I was afraid that someone would go, "Oh yeah, that's right. These types of things. There's no security at the schools for these after-hour things."
Right. You're going to give somebody an idea.
That scared me. That, oh my God, what if I'm giving someone the awareness of that in their community, there are these school events that they can target more easily.
Right.
Which was another area of geez, what a ridiculous thing to be anxious about. But at the same time, it doesn't feel unfounded.
Yeah. Do you think that was more as a result of the shooting that just happened, or do you generally?
Oh, yeah. I mean, It's something I was always aware of, but the actual feeling of panic, was not. I don't normally feel a panic. I normally feel a sort of heightened sense of something, but the panic was definitely because of the recent.
And by the way, along those lines of just giving out ideas, I mean, Chappelle has this joke about school shootings, and he's like, the school shooting drills. You know who was always in those drills, learning about it? The next school shooter. It's like, what do you do? I'm not sure that you don't do the drills, but I'm also, one could make an argument that they don't do much.
I don't think they do, no.
Yeah, other than terrify,
panic the children, yeah.
Exactly, and the families as well. I also wanted to ask you your take on why it's important to understand the outcome of the trial verdict with the actor Johnny Depp and his ex-wife. What is she, a model actress? I don't know anything about her. Amber Heard. But you shared this tweet from Adam Davis, and he's a writer at the New Yorker, I think, right? I don't know.
That sounds right.
He wrote, I'm a bit stunned that more journalists aren't outraged and stunned by the Amber Heard Johnny Depp verdict. In addition to being a disaster for domestic abuse survivors, it's a disaster for publications' ability to tell truth to power. What are your thoughts about the outcome of that trial that I wasn't paying much attention to because I didn't think it mattered, but now I'm hearing the outcome matters a lot?
I wasn't paying much attention to it either. I don't, but, and now I've read quite a bit on it. I mean, my overall feeling is there's too many Johnny Depp supporters online. Yeah. It doesn't seem organic or real. Right. I don't know that people have that much of allegiance to him as an actor, but it's a little disturbing. It seems as though quite a lot of people have just taken it up because it's masking some other stuff that they want to put out into the world.
Interesting. Yeah.
I mean, my first take when I looked at the whole thing, when I just kind of first started glancing at the trial, was like, oh, they both seem terrible, and I do not want to spend time with either of these people. They, I don't know what happened, but neither of them seem great. But the outcome element that is interesting, is that the whole trial, to my understanding, is really because she called herself a survivor of domestic abuse, but she did not name who the abuser was. She didn't say Johnny Depp is, beat me or something. She just referred to herself as an abuse victim. And that's where it's like, fuck. I mean, this is a real, seems like it could be a real problem for journalists, for reporters, for anyone who wants to have any sort of ability to tell their own story, especially when it is so, it was once removed from the actual person that it was pointing to. And I mean, Jesus, I'm sure it was in the context, and I'm sure that there was, enough to infer that it was Depp. But I mean, Amber Heard, from what I now understand, also dated Elon Musk. So I don't know. Could have been some other terrible fucking dude. There's a
wow. I didn't know that.
Mm-hmm. Just learned it today.
What a weird string of men to date.
What a weird segment of the world where they all know each other, like where they're just removed from the rest of us, and they're all like that. That is always. That always fascinates me.
They go to the same parties, I would imagine.
Yeah, I'm sure Epstein was hosting them. Yeah.
How's Elon Musk doing, by the way? Have you checked in with him this week at all? Is he? What is he up to? I feel like he's been causing.
For some reason, he hasn't included me in his text chains either. So I'm not really sure. I keep asking.
No, that's what I knew. He did something. He was critical. He warned Tesla workers they better start coming to work. He was very critical of working from home, which is a really bizarre criticism. Like, I am 100% open to the conversation about how we now work based on different industries, different companies, different people's preferences. I do not think there's one hard and fast rule, which is why I would never argue that one way is necessarily better than the other.
Well, he also started saying like, he's worried about the economy. It's going to go downhill. And now he's got to decimate Tesla, by which I mean he has said he's going to have to let go 10% of the staff. And so the idea of the work from home thing,
right.
He's always like playing these dumb little games. And the work from home thing seemed to just be sort of like, oh, I don't have to fire you if I just like give you a reason that you can't work here anymore.
Right. Okay.
And then he came out with the fact that like, he's gonna cut 10% of the workforce, which go fuck yourself. He could pay every single one of those people and give them a raise. Like, he's just someone who's just constantly playing games with everyone's lives because he's bored out of his fucking mind and he's a piece of shit.
Well said, ma'am. Yeah, no. Have you seen all these different forecasts from Jamie Dimon to Elon Musk to others, talking about the potential recession?
Sure. Yeah. Maybe. I don't know. Things aren't great, but I have certainly learned in my particular profession that economists are, pretty much nonsense. So who knows?
Often.
I would like to see us do some investing in people and giving people a reason to be a little bit more excited and gleeful. I think a lot of this stuff is actually driven a lot more by just sort of general expectation than anything else. Actually, when you start sort of putting into the world that things are bad and they're only going to get worse, people start to panic, especially people at the top.
Yep.
They do things like say, I'm going to cut 10% of my workforce. Well, now we have a huge segment of the population that's out of work that needs jobs. And that is something that, now we start seeing trends of unemployment is up. Well, if unemployment, it just drives one thing to another. And so much of it tends to just be this like ridiculous game of telephone. And we can start it off in the other direction, but these fucking assholes never do.
You also tweeted a couple days ago, weekends should also apply to years. You work for 5, then get 2 off. So you want to work 5 years, get 2 years off. That's the proposal.
I just went off. That was just like a way to, like, it's just one of those things. Like, people talk about like midlife crises. And when I was a kid, I always thought that a midlife crisis was like this awareness that like, you're going to die soon. Like, I always thought it was like the awareness of your mortality crashing down upon you. That's what I imagined it to be. And now that I'm like at midlife, I'm just like, oh shit, no, it is the recognition that I have to do all of this. Like, I'm not even halfway through this shit. Like, it keeps going. I'm so tired of it. When do I get a fucking break? Like,
you are speaking for so many people right now. It's such a truth about this age, especially. I think I don't remember feeling this way even in my 20s or 30s, but I love my work. I love it.
You can't get enough of it, to be honest with you. I don't know anybody who loves, especially now.
Yeah, you figured it out. You're doing something great. Yeah, at the same time, but
still want that time to just, frankly, for me, not have to sit in front of a screen. I mean, that's the only part. Yeah. But I, for those who are working so much more and so much harder, even, I mean, I get it. At this age, it's like, all right, enough, please.
Right, and the knowledge that like,
breaks.
No, you can't, because it's like everyone's paycheck to paycheck, so it's just like. Well,
one thing
what are you going to do?
Well, the realistic thing is to take your, analogy or to take your equation there. And a lot of places have done this successfully. Countries have not, states and companies, 4-day work weeks, 3-day weekends. I think that's like such a better lifestyle, it would seem.
I mean, it definitely is. And I'm definitely on board.
Yeah.
And, look, I'm not saying no to that. Like, yes, absolutely. 4-day work week, 3-day work week, whatever. That's great. But there is this feeling to me where it's just like, yeah, but I want it by the year now. Like, I don't just want a long weekend. Like, I get a long weekend every now and again. We have Memorial Day or July 4th or whatever the dumb holiday is. Sorry, I shouldn't call them.
Wow, very disrespectful to America's servicemen.
Very disrespectful. But I'll call 4th of July dumb. It's I'm okay. I'll stick with that one.
Yeah.
But like we get those. But I want like. I don't know. I want a year to be at the seaside, and just think thoughts and like take long walks every day and, and correspond with people and like just, do all that stuff that I spent so much time reading about what life was, but, don't have time to experience.
Oh, I like the way you described it. It sounds lovely.
Doesn't it though?
I hope that happens for you.
Thank you.
We have to make this happen for you.
You can come visit.
We'll find a way. All right, on that wonderful vision, that wonderful dream, I think I'll wrap it because it's a great place to end. I love it. I love what you want to do with your off year, your gap year at this point in our lives.
Me too.
It sounds wonderful. Other people should have to name theirs. You get 1 year off. What are you going to do? I like it.
Mm-hmm.
Then you have to go back to whatever it is or not.
Then you walk in, you fill your pocket with rocks and walk into the sea. That's that.
I didn't realize that's dark there. Wow, that ended so much differently. Mara Quint, thank you very much, as always.
Thanks.
All right, there you go, Mara Quint. Almost every Monday, she joins me here on the show, and always happy when she does. Such a good friend and such a brilliant human being, always hilarious. Love talking to her. Follow her on Twitter at Behind Your Back right now. Again, thanks to Celeste Headlee, who is brilliant as always. Get all her books and let her know you heard her on the show. And sign up for a paid subscription if you haven't already. Join the over 800 who have. Up to $5, just $5 or more. A lot of you are paying more now, and that is amazing and so appreciated. Thank you very, very much. Please keep it coming, because while the show is free, I cannot do it without your paid subscription because it is very expensive. So sign up now. Go to standupwithpete.com. That's all I've got for you today. Look forward to talking to you tomorrow. Be a member of our community. You're never alone. If you are, you can hang out with us on Discord. Always people in there. Check it out. All right, John Carroll, take us out right now. Thank you very much.
Keep right on ignoring us if we keep sitting tight. You got to open up the window to let in some light. You got to stand up. That's right. You got to rise up. You got to stand up. You got to stare the devil straight in the eye. We got to let him know it's his turn to go. See it clear when all you hear is a lie. So get up off of your butt, get down off of your fence. Even if it ain't a very friendly audience, well, they'll begin to listen when you start making sense and you stand up, stand up. No need to point your rifle to defend your town, just stand up, stand up. You know they can't deny you what you're laying down. Oh, you better stand up, stand up. Show your face of every color, yellow, black, red, and brown. She's the place where every lost child will finally be found. There's only one thing to do before we stand our ground, and that's stand up, stand up. Well, the founding fathers saw a land for all. They had to stand up, they had to stand up. They had a keen imagination for a crystal ball. sin. They knew that change was gonna come before the change could begin. They had to stand up. All right, they had to stand up. We got to stand up. We got to look the devil square in the eye. We gotta let him know it's his time to go and make it clear when all we hear is a lie. Why you lying awake wondering where the money all went? It'll be the cost of freedom that'll go unspent. You can see him flee the scene of that experiment if you stand up. All right, we got to speak up. We got to reach up and raise your voice in every way you know how. Don't be toes up. You got to show up. Ain't no better time to do it than now. No need to pledge allegiance to no wanton tribe. Rise up, show obedience to the voice inside, and listen well, and it'll tell you not to run and hide. It says stand up.